I first met Nancy in 1985. I met her because we both were interested in art. I happened to have opened an art gallery in 1987 that I had for 11 years, and Nancy was one of the regulars who came to all the openings. She brought her children, and I could always count on the fact that she would bring friends. And so that was the beginning of our 40-year relationship. Anytime that you move to a new area, you have to ask yourself the question, where am I fitting in? And so what are my talents? What am I good at? And so she started to volunteer. She had been used to a really rich cultural life because she grew up in New Jersey and New York and had visited many museums and theater and had participated. Her family believed that children should be exposed at an early age to the arts. And she always liked it and always sought it after that. And so when she came here, the first thing that she got involved with was with the acting group called the Road Company. And that was a very busy acting group, and I loved it too, and that's how I first met her. But she became the managing director and a fundraiser part-time for the Road Company. One of the things that she had majored in geography in college, and the first step she took was to go back to ETSU and get a degree in her master's. And she went to Kingsport to be the city planner for a year. When she came back, by this time she was having a child, and she came back and she decided that she would enroll in and study Appalachian Studies, and became involved with the Center for Appalachian Studies, and became the editor, managing editor of the magazine Now and Then. So that created a real interest for her in everything Appalachian, because not only do you come with the idea of what can I give, but also the idea of what can I get from this culture. And she became very interested in the Appalachian culture and saw where she fit in, and became a real inspiration for many people. She was fascinated by ceramics and started taking lessons from a person in Jonesboro and liked it so much, and then started taking professional lessons at ETSU. And that was the motivation for having this gallery that she later opened, because her desire was to find a space for some of her friends that she knew who were working in ceramics, and for herself to have a place to work and use the kilns and learn more. When she started looking around, she happened to see these warehouses that were here on the railroad track, empty, not empty, but not occupied, except by stuff. And so she walks in, and I happen to be with her. And we see this space that is piled up to the ceiling. What she saw, I don't know, because I would have been discouraged from the start. But she immediately started thinking about it. This might be a place. She bought the space and hired the people who could do what she wanted done 10 years ago. And it took 6 years for it to be ready for occupation. And so 4 years ago, she moved in and started this wonderful operation that she now runs and manages. I think she has been a leader in that other people will dare to be led by her and be trained by her of how they could try to do the same thing. Well, what has happened with this one is that these other spaces that were in this rundown warehouse have since become occupied. You talk about leadership. It's Nancy who made the decision that I will do this. I would like to talk a little bit about the whole idea of Appalachian art and Nancy's influence on changing people's perspective. Because Appalachian art is simply art that's done in Appalachia. You can't look at a piece and say that's Appalachian art unless you focus on the people. There's every kind of subject being dealt with here that is dealt with in the art world in general. And it makes people who have always been timid about ever showing anybody their work bold and appreciated, nervous, but also feeling empowered to do more of it. You learn through places like Nancy has created that there are many artists who go unseen. And they come out of the woodwork when they have a place to show. And also just the great need that artists have for a space. It's very hard to find. And so she had no trouble renting out the 17 spaces that she created, and people are in line as if one is vacated. There's always somebody waiting to move in. A gallery is more than just art. What she has done is brought in musicians. She's had readers come in to appreciative audience. She's had other activities. She's going to have a panel discussion this coming week. It's just become a multi-purpose place. And people really appreciate it because there's been a lack of it. And one thing I would like to stress is that both Nancy and I have been in places and we're well aware of how art affects a community at large. It becomes a richer place, a more enticing place for people to move to if they know there's culture, higher culture. It's things like the symphony, which she also supports. It's things like theater. It's the things like that. The more of that we have, the more people are going to want to move here. Johnson City changed. When Nancy moved here in the 1980 census, there was only 37, close to 40,000 people in Johnson City. Now we have over 70,000. And so things have really changed. And so as more and more people move in, there are more and more people needing and loving places like this because it gives them a place to be proud of. Yeah, she's using it so wisely. I'm so proud of her. And I also would like to express my appreciation for your organization, for recognizing her. I think it's well-deserved, and I appreciate so much being asked to say what I know and how much I appreciate Nancy and the role she's played in my life and the life of the arts.
I am very excited about this award. I feel like I'm part of a special group of people who have dedicated their lives to the arts in various ways. And I'm proud to know and have worked with several of the people who have received this award before me. Val Lyle, Cornelia Langley-Orth, Eugene Wolfe, Ted Olson, Suzanne Strike, Jason Flack, and Lincoln Bridges. And to be included in such an august group gives me an incredible feeling of pride. I grew up under great influence of the arts. My mother was a dancer. Before she married my father, she taught at the Arthur Murray Studios. I'm not sure how many of you know, but that was a pretty famous dance studio in the New York City area. She taught ballroom dancing, but she was also part of a troupe that traveled and performed folk dancing. She was never formally trained in any kind of classical style, but she was constantly learning new ballroom dancing steps. My father was disabled and couldn't dance with her, so he encouraged her to go out, find a partner, and make sure that she continued with her dancing. She also taught ballroom dancing at the local high school with the adult education program. And whenever she was short of women, and she was short of women a lot, she would encourage me to go with her. So I also learned ballroom dancing, which I really enjoyed as well. My brother, sister, and I were all in the band in high school. And I took piano lessons with a cousin of hers in New York City. So I would take the bus into New York. It was a 45-minute bus ride, and often spent the night with my mother's cousin Ruth. And we would go to other performances. We went to a lot of Shakespeare in the Park and other performances in other venues. We had other relatives and friends in the city, friends of my parents, who also would invite me in. And I'm not sure whether my brother and sister got the advantage of this. But it was great because they would take us to the theater, they would take us to plays, to music events, and also to museums. We spent a lot of time at the Metropolitan Museum of Art and a lot of the other museums in the city. My father had several aunts who lived in the same apartment building in Brooklyn, and I would visit with them mostly over the Christmas holidays. They lived several blocks away from the Brooklyn Museum of Art, and which actually I didn't realize this is the city's second largest museum. They had a fantastic collection of Egyptian relics and other historical kinds of things, and kind of developed an interest in archaeology, and also their collections of artifacts, including lots of pottery. So I got to really enjoy looking at the pottery and thinking about how it was made. And although I didn't take lessons in pottery at the time when I was a kid, it was always kind of back there in my mind. We'd visit the botanical gardens, and my mother, who was born and raised in Brooklyn as well, was a typical city girl, kind of went to the gardens but never really was involved in them. We moved to New Jersey from New York City when I was 6 years old, and she became a fantastic gardener. She took our half acre of property and turned it into a fantastic garden area. So I learned gardening from her, and I sort of handed that down. My daughter, who's here tonight, Alexis, my oldest daughter, also became a great gardener. And we also had, most of my aunts and my grandmothers were fantastic cooks. And they passed down their skills to me, and my younger daughter now is also a fantastic baker. So it's been kind of, you follow the generations down the line. Excuse me a minute. I've had this thing for 2 weeks now. It should go away. My daughter is the Lazy Lady Baker, and she runs Lazy Lady Atelier, along with the Fischman Gallery and my artist studios. If you haven't been to Johnson City yet to visit the gallery, please make a point of coming when the bakery is open, so that you can enjoy one of her fantastic pastries and some really good coffee. We're both closed Tuesday and Wednesday, so come any other day and take advantage of what we have to offer there. I had planned to major in biology when I went to college, but the geography department put on a special program for the incoming freshmen. And after a semester of biology, physics, chemistry, and calculus, I was ready for a change and started taking all the geography classes I could. It was almost like archaeology. There was a lot of combination of things: sociology, geology, history, economics, and cartography. And something I could really get into without making my brain hurt. like it did with the chemistry, physics, calculus, and biology. But I was also lucky enough to meet my now husband, David. He was a physics graduate student. We met through a group of people from various departments who got together to play volleyball. And we kind of struck up a relationship. We moved together to Storrs, Connecticut, where he had a postdoc appointment, and then to Rochester, New York. And in Rochester, that's where I started taking pottery classes at the Museum of Art. They had a really good program. And taking classes there, I realized this was something I really wanted to continue doing. So eventually, Dave and I made it down here to Tennessee, where Dave began his career teaching at ETSU. One of the first people I met in Johnson City was Joe Carson. You might have seen a newspaper article that was up there that talked about Joe Carson and Nancy Fischman, and we started that little art show to raise money for the road company. I wound up in the master's degree program in geography at ETSU, but Joe was the one who kind of led me into a group of the artsy folks in Johnson City, mainly with the theater company. I became a member of their board of directors, and I also started taking pottery classes with Gary Gerhardt in Jonesboro. After I graduated, I took a job with the City of Kingsport in their planning department. But then, after Alexis was born, my first daughter, I decided to not work full-time, and I took actually a job with the road company as a development director. And then my pottery aspirations were kind of put on hold. And we had a second daughter 3 years later, and our life was pretty full, raising 2 children and working as the managing editor of Now and Then magazine. That was great because I was able to learn all kinds of skills, including desktop publishing, which I've used almost every day since then with the various things I've been doing. After retiring from the Center for Appalachian Studies, I began auditing ceramics classes at ETSU. And if you don't already know this, once you turn 60, you can audit classes at ETSU without paying any kind of tuition. You have to pay a lab fee if there's a lab fee associated with the class. So I was real excited. There's something to look forward to when you get old. And I was lucky that the ceramics instructor liked me a lot. I and my friend Ann Reed, who's sitting back there, we both took advantage of Don Davis's continuing to allow us to take his classes. But Don kept hinting that maybe it was time for me to find my own studio space. So I was lucky that I found this warehouse in Johnson City. It had 6,800 square feet, which is a little more than I needed for my own studio space. But it also was large enough to consider fulfilling another dream that I had, which was to develop an art center where I could have artists have their own studio space. I could have a gallery to show local and regional art, and bring my daughter home from San Francisco to run her own bakery. My husband's reaction when I told him I was interested in buying a building downtown was, "You want to do what?" So we sat down together. I sat down with the bank and started talking with some other people about how to finance this project, this crazy project. And fortunately, we were able to self-finance the whole thing. The bank wanted some unreasonable amount of money every month to pay back the loan, and I just couldn't see paying the bank as much money as they wanted when we could do this work ourselves and not owe somebody else money for it. By a group of women sponsoring the arts called Bravissima, and one of my studio artists, Calliope McMahon, who's also here tonight, who had volunteered to become my gallery assistant. which was very fortunate because here I was, way in over my head. I was starting a new business, and who knew how to actually hang a show? I was like, I don't know how to do this. So the other fortunate thing was I had friends at the Reese Museum. Between them and Calliope and Bravissima, we had a grand opening in May, and we've had monthly exhibits going on since then. Now, as we enter our 4th year, I have a new gallery assistant, Elena Corradino, I'm so proud of Calliope. She's gotten to the point where her ceramics business is taken without them. I want to thank Jill Oxendine, whom I've known for a long time, who nominated me for this award. It was a great surprise when I got the call from Ben Jennings, I was thrilled when Ben called me and told me about this. I appreciate Martha Alfonso doing this great introduction. And as Martha said, I used to take the girls to jewelry, and of course Marin with her creative pastries. You know, I made her go, she wanted to go to culinary school right after high school, and I made her go to college to get a 4-year degree. She majored in art with a concentration in photography, and then went off to San Francisco, and I was really pleased to be able to get her to come back home with a bakery, because I knew she'd never be able to afford to have her own place out in San Francisco. But she did come back, and she's doing really well. Also with me today is my husband, David Close. I appreciate his support. Exhibited work. We are booked through 2027 and now booking shows for 2028. And thanks to AAME for providing the opportunity to recognize arts achievements in this area and to bestow this award on me. Thank you very much.